Hello, entrepreneurs, and welcome to the Possibility Partners TV show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, your Chief Possibility Officer, and I love helping entrepreneurs, startups, early stage entrepreneurs, launch brand and build their businesses without spending a fortune or wasting a lot of time because you and I know, right? New businesses do not come with instructions. And every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, right here on Google Plus Hangouts on Air, I love bringing you Andy-licious advice for entrepreneurial adventurers. And these are wonderful conversations with experienced entrepreneurs, all sharing their wisdom, their experience, their best tips, tools, and advice to help you grow your business. And so today I have a wonderful guest that I'm so excited to share with you. This is a gal just like us on her fourth business, trying to get some publicity, didn't have a budget, had no experience with public relations as we know it. And she went out, did her homework, figured things out, and got the most amazing publicity in just 1 year. And she's going to share her story today. But let's first say hello and join me in welcoming the one and only publicity maven, I like to call her, Christina Daves. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you, Ande, for having me. I'm so excited. I love to share this. I love to see entrepreneurs have success in publicity. It's wonderful.
You know, and that's really what you're so passionate about, and I really get that. And everywhere I see you, you just love helping people pursue their dreams and realize their potential. And PR is a great way to do that. So thank you. I don't know if you guys heard that lovely little beep in. So before we get into the wonderful details that you're going to share with us to help entrepreneurs grow their business with the right kind of publicity that they can afford and take the time for, share with the viewers your entrepreneur experience. Did you wake up one day and say, hey, I'm an entrepreneur? Did you know early on? Tell us your story.
Well, I actually had my entire life planned out for me. I went to Virginia Tech, which we talked about back in the green room. I was a double major in political science and German. I had a job all set in Germany. I was ready to move overseas, and my father was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And this is back in 1991 when there was no Google Hangouts, there was no FaceTime. You know, if I was going to communicate with my family, it was going to be writing letters. It was too expensive to even call from the landline.
Right.
And very sadly, he passed pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And at that age, you know what, that's to this day the most traumatic experience I've ever had in my life. And I really was kind of lost and didn't know what to do, and was back in the hometown that I had grown up with. So I had friends who gave me jobs, and I kind of fumbled through, you know, I did this, I did that. And then a friend of mine said, hey, we're going to start this event planning firm, 2 guys that I knew, and they're like, you know, we want a woman's touch. I was thinking, okay, I'm in my 20s. What else am I going to do? I'll go throw parties for a living, sure. So I went on board with them, and you have to think, again, before the internet, this was like Match.com for 20-something singles. We would mail out postcards. We would have these big concerts in D.C. We had the Dave Matthews Band before the Dave Matthews Band was anybody, and it was really fun. So that was my first real entrepreneurial anything. And then I was in my late 20s and had met my husband and thought, coming home at 3 and 4 in the morning every weekend as a newly married woman is probably not a good idea. It's probably time I grew up and, you know, got a real job. So I actually went to work for one of my partners in the event planning business for his dad. He was a big land development guy, kind of taught me everything he knew, and then in a year he retired. So I went off on my own. I'm like, nobody else knows how to do this. I'm going to go. So I ended up contracting with AOL because they were new in DC. Yeah, I did. I did all their feasibility studies. Every time they wanted to build a building or a data center, I was their girl. But that's not a lot of fun. So I did that for years, and it kind of dried up, and then my next door neighbor, my girlfriend, she's like, let's open a store. And we were out in the middle of nowhere, but it's all these big new houses, you know, these new communities. I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. Our husbands thought we were nuts. They're like, you need to do a business plan. So I'm like, okay, I know how to do a business plan. I'll do a business plan. So anyway, we took an old historic house in the middle of nowhere and renovated it, but we knew that all the women were there. We knew they were all coming shopping. And we opened that in 2001, and my partner bought me out in 2009. I had brick and mortar burnout. She's still there. It's still successful. It's still wonderful. My daughter actually just started working there, which is pretty fun. So then I retired for a year and had a crazy freak accident and broke my foot and ended up in that awful black medical boot the day before I was going to New York. And I said to my doctor, I'm not wearing this in New York. And he said, oh, I hope you packed all black because you are, and you're wearing it for the next 8 weeks. So long story short, there was nothing on the market to make it look good. And I found out in my research, there are 4 million people a year put in these awful, awful boots, walking around looking like that. So I created this company, Cosmetic Designs, to make those awful medical boots look fashionable.
Everybody knows my love of accessories, so of course I was just, when I heard that idea, it was like, duh, of course, what a wonderful idea. And that's, folks, how a lot of businesses start, right? So what happened? What did you design? How did you make these boots glamorous and fashionable?
Yeah, so I have this, or she actually moved away, but I had this amazing seamstress in my neighborhood who looked just like my grandmother, 84 years old. I'm like, Katie, we have to figure this out. It's got to be Velcro. So Katie and I just had so much fun for several months figuring out designs, figuring out what would work. And, my husband and I we really saw the market for it and decided to move forward. So we, that's about a year and a half process.
Yeah.
But
it's manufacturing, folks.
Manufacturing.
Today, right? So it's a whole different ballgame. So good for you. Go on.
Yeah. So then I've got my product. I'm so excited, and everybody I know loves it. But what I didn't realize is I created a whole new concept in the marketplace. So it's like, uh-oh, how am I going to tell people that this even exists? Nobody's looking for medical boot accessories, medical boot fashions. I've got to let the doctors know, and I've got to let the patients know. And I had no money to hire a publicist. So I was like, uh-oh, I better figure this out pretty quickly. So I went to the library and I read every book, PR for Dummies, anything you could think of, every free webinar, anything to teach myself about getting publicity. And then I started figuring out some things on my own, like figuring out my own formulas and my own contacts, and it worked. And the first year I was in over 50 media outlets, including national television, like Steve Harvey and Dr. Oz, and now in 2 years it's been over 200.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
And people think too, oh, okay, so you've been on TV, but my product retails for $7 to $24, and in those 2 years I've generated over 6 figures in sales that I can equate just to the publicity.
Oh my gosh, does anybody have the money thing? Ka-ching, ka-chang, and a round of applause. Yay, yay.
And it was free publicity. That's what's so important. I didn't pay anybody to help get me on in newspapers or in magazines. You can really do it yourself.
Wow. And what I really love and appreciate about you too, Christine, is that you became tenacious and persistent, because we feel this way about our businesses. It's like raising your children. I mean, you want to get the best for them, and you were like, hey, just because I don't have money doesn't mean I can't figure this out. And you did all the right things, and you're self-learning and teaching and reaching out and watching. I love that. Folks, if you want to learn some more about Christina Daves, just go to her website, pr4anyone.com. I love your story, Christina. I love the fact that you jumped from one business to another because you're an entrepreneurial adventurer. It really didn't take you that long either to say yes in some of these things. But also I love the fact that you felt the transition and you went with what you were called to do. And you had times when you're like, I'm done with that. That's incredible. I'm feeling complete. I'd love to bring in just a few comments from the crowd today. We've got so many wonderful viewers tuning in. Thank you, everybody, so much. I love Kirsten Hancock has a great comment here. Another product to solve a problem. Yes, folks, right, Christina? I mean, that's one of the foundations of entrepreneurism is find a problem people want solved. And then I love Kim Armstrong's comment here. Wow, so many successful ventures. Christina Daves, love the fashion forward cast story. Necessity is truly the mother of invention. Oh my gosh, that's so true. And then finally here with Leela, that's amazing return on a very affordable product, right, everybody? I mean, wow, wow, wow. Um, so now I just want to remind those live viewers before we get into the meat of our discussion today, after I hit end broadcast, I'll be putting the link to the green room in the comment sections here. So we really do. Christina, I would love to see you, and we hope you'll join us for the Afterglow party. I'm just throwing that out now before we get into what we're really here for, which is how to get publicity and create a buzz for your business. And I know Christina has a lot to share with us now about that. So you gained all this great knowledge and you decided to turn it into a book. What prompted you to do that?
I had called a publisher for a friend trying to make an introduction, somebody who I had met at a trade show. So this is why networking is so important. One of the big things I tell people, it's not only who you know, but it's who they know. And he said, hey, what are you up to? And I had just started the PR for Anyone. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about writing an ebook. I've kind of started a manuscript. And he said, oh, can I see that? And I sent him what I had started. And he said, would you write that book for us?
Oh,
yeah.
Seriously? So we're not even talking self-published? You got published?
No, published. Yay!
And of course, you're talking networking not just online. You're talking about what we call belly to belly. I like to use that. Is that what you're talking about, Christina?
I do, and people say that to me all the time. I really try to stay connected with people that I meet, and I love to put people together. You know, oh, well, you and I, we met, and I connected you with somebody that I knew that to
right.
possibly help out with the business. I just love to do that. So it's just, and everybody has these connections. You don't even realize how connected you are until you really start to pay attention and see who you can put together.
Right. So there you were. You did all your research, and you figured out, how did you figure out what media to target? And you have a really funny story you have to share with everybody, how you got onto national news, which, by the way, they do your hair and makeup on national news.
Yes, they do. I do love that.
But you got into national before you got to local.
I did, which never happens. And I teach a lot, and I do workshops, and I tell people, focus on your local, because national television will never put you on. But this was just a unique scenario. I had answered a HARO query, and if people don't know what HARO is, it's help a reporter out. And so many people are like, oh, it doesn't work. Oh, it takes too much time. I have ways to make it go really fast, and I've been on national television twice because of that, and in national publications. But one of those was the Steve Harvey show. And it kind of was an all-day. I had done the HARO query, and just months later they came back to me, and I didn't know it was the Steve Harvey show. And then they said that you responded to this, and a full day of interviews on the phone. And at 9 o'clock that night they call me, and I have my mom hat on, and I'm walking out of the Booster Club meeting with my husband, and it was the Steve Harvey show, and they said, we'd like to have you on the show. And I said, oh, fabulous. When? And they said, oh, we're filming tomorrow. What's your airport of choice, and what's the name on your driver's license? And I'm like, my husband's like, just go. I'll figure it out. Just go.
Oh my gosh. Again, she said yes, and she figured it out later. That's Tina Fey's really great advice as well. That's awesome. So you went the next day?
I went. I flew out the next day. I spent the night. Then the following day, then they had the limo come. Well, the limo took me to my hotel, and then they took me to the studio. And you get hair and makeup. And I was hugging the makeup girls because I have never looked so beautiful in my life. Like, can you come home with me, please? But it was really fun, and I was very nervous. I was very scared. And this is a great piece of advice that a friend of mine gave me. And he said, and I tell this, if you ever get on television, and it is, you are nervous. And he said, nobody there in that audience wants to see you fail. And he was right. And I looked through the audience, and I found this one woman, and I still can see her clear as day, and she just smiled with her eyes. And I was like, that's it. I can do this. I'll be fine.
Oh,
and I just thought that was such good advice.
I'm going to remember that. You-hoo, Deborah Crosby and Dave Moore. I'm going to remember that, Christina, because that was going to be one of my questions. How do you do when you're getting called, whether it's the local news or national like that, how do you keep from being nervous? So I think that is just such a beautiful piece of advice.
Yeah.
Now, how do you follow up? And you do such a great job. You got these media folks to pick up your story, but I know for a lot of folks, they can answer the HARO ad or reach out to journalists, whether it's on Twitter and LinkedIn, and we can talk a little bit about that.
Right.
But what's the follow-up like when you're tracking down someone to carry your story?
The best success that I have had is, and I'm such a huge proponent of this, is building relationships with people in the media. And that might mean that you give that journalist a lot of stories, other stories that aren't about you, before they cover you. And my perfect example, I have a Fox News anchor here in DC, and I pitched her my idea. She liked it, but we couldn't figure out, how to fit it in. And in the meantime, I had given her other stories. I started to really watch her. I'm like, oh, Laura, I know so-and-so. I think this would be great for you on this segment. And I just kept giving her people, and she now sends me emails that I'm her go-to all things entrepreneurial and signs all emails XOXO.
I love it.
So, but I am now also a repeat guest on Fox. But that's because I have done so much to help her that if there's a story that I would be good for, guess who she calls? Me.
Nice.
And she did a 30-minute syndicated special on entrepreneurship, how you take an idea from napkin to marketplace, and use me as the entrepreneur.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
was she smart or what? Because again, you had such a great story to share with everyone.
But that was after I used to be in a women's group, and the philosophy was give, give, get. So I'm a firm believer, the more you give to a journalist that's not necessarily you wanting anything, that will pay you back tenfold at the end.
Wow, wow, wow. And you spoke about pitching a story ahead of time. How does that work? What's involved with doing that?
So the key is, here, my little triangle. Here you go.
Yay.
This is what I love. My 3 pillars of PR success. So you have to have a newsworthy story idea, you have to have a great hook, and you have to have the right journalist. And the reason you need all 3 of these is, say you know how to write a headline really well, but you don't have the right journalist. Or you have a newsworthy idea, but you don't have the right journalist. Well, the person you send it to is going to delete it. Say you have a great idea, a great story, but you don't know how to get the journalist to read it from the subject line. They're going to delete it. So that's why you really need all 3 of these. And the most important, I think, is the hook, because you've got to get them to open your email. Because some especially like CNN, Today's Show, they could get 1,000 emails in a day.
Yeah.
You've got to stand out in that sea, and that's why you need all 3. If you have all 3 of those, your percentage of success will skyrocket.
Wow, wow, wow. That's tremendous advice. And that's something that you talk more about in your book, PR for Anyone, right?
I do. I talk a lot about that. Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of tips.
See, that's what we all need as business owners, is an understanding of how we do this. Because sure, we respond to the Harrow ad and it's in our category, but then how do we take it to the next step? Can you talk about how, because I've heard some great numbers about journalists being on LinkedIn and on Twitter. How can we build relationships with them via those 2 social media channels?
Absolutely. And I'm huge on Twitter. They're so easy to find. That's where journalists are. And there's something called Muck Rack, which is a really weird name.
Yes, I love Muck Rack.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's how you can really find out who's writing about stuff that you could talk about. And again, if you look at the journalists on Twitter, a lot of them don't have a lot of followers and don't follow a lot of people.
Right.
I was just doing it for a client this week, and she's got 150 followers. I'm like, oh, we're going to jump right in there and start talking. But you don't pitch yourself right away. Oh, Ande, what a great article you wrote about X, Y, and Z. I really enjoyed it, and share it with your audience, because they will know that you're sharing. And then they're going to start to recognize you. And then when you pitch, they're going to be like, oh, I remember her. She's done a lot for me. Let me read her email. Let me see what she's got.
I love that. And it does take homework, folks. And it really means following reporters where they're living and sharing their story that way. They all have Twitter handles. I mean, really, 9 out of 10 of them do, right, Christina?
Yeah. Absolutely. They're not all on LinkedIn. Most of them are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another one of my tricks, especially when you do a Harrow query. Go find them on LinkedIn, tell them you responded, and say, if I'm not a great source for this article, perhaps a future one. And the journalists need us. They need our help. Nobody's
right.
A lot of people are afraid of journalists, but they're not going to look at your LinkedIn requests, especially if you're legitimate on LinkedIn and you've got a good number of followers and you've got a business and if you don't have a picture on LinkedIn, don't try to connect with a journalist. I definitely don't recommend that. But that's how I got on Dr. Oz. I had done a Harrow query for the Dr. Oz show. I was not put on that show. I connected with the producer, built a relationship with her, booked probably 5 guests for her, and then I was on the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you turned into a little PR maven, your own firm while you were at it, right? I love that. Hey, listen, I'm just going to bring up a few more comments.
Sure.
Wonderful live viewers. Roy says at 10, I love that he gives me a timestamp when you said this too. Christina Daves shared it. Shared it. It's not just who you know, it's also who they know. And gosh, that is such a great piece of advice. Thank you for that, and thank you for highlighting that, Roy. And then Virginia Parsons, who has a wonderful show on Mondays, everybody, for women business owners. You've got to watch and tune into her show here on Google+. It's wonderful. Virginia says, from napkin to marketplace, giving without expecting. Oh, yeah, so powerful.
Thank you.
Oh, that is so great. So you talked about HARO, which of course leads to Vocus, PR Web. Do you recommend people write press releases and post them that way to get media?
Okay, I'm starting to be known as a PR rebel here, but my whole philosophy is building relationships with a core group of journalists. Instead of blasting out a big, huge press release, which I don't know anybody that a press release has worked for. And I ask that question every time I speak, and people send them out. And I've sent them out for reasons. You know, a lot when I did my book, it was great for SEO. It was worth every penny for that, but it didn't get picked up. But when you build relationships with the journalists, you will have much better success. So
if you have a press release.
No, I don't do the press release.
Okay, you don't do it at all. I just wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
Yeah, so I did do it for my book, and I did do it when I launched Cosmetic. I did not. I got a little bit when I launched Cosmetic because it was such a unique product and something so different. But most people and most businesses are not going to get much out of a blasted press release. You're much better off telling a journalist a story idea, giving them the full picture of you and how it benefits their audience, and saying "Dear Ande" instead of just this blast.
Right. Hey, for the folks in our comment stream, it's Muckrack, and I think that's
Muckrack. And you can sign up for the Muckrack Daily, which is like a newspaper that comes in for free every day and just shows you what's trending on Twitter in the news.
Yeah. Very handy tool, everybody. Yoo-hoo, Lainey Sullivan, just saying. She's one of my favorite tool people. She was the guest last week, Christina. So that's, okay, so your advice is, sorry, Vocus and PR Web, not to do that, to take the time to build the relationships with the journalists. Now, you talked about LinkedIn. What other ways can we find these journalists where we can then send them our great hook of something very newsworthy?
Well, there's this crazy tool out there called Google. I'm telling you, there's really no excuse not to find a journalist. Between Twitter, LinkedIn, Google, like your local news anchors, it takes a little bit of digging. And I was working for a client last night trying to find somebody, and just going that one extra step, and there I found a local channel that I don't do a lot of work on, but I think they would do well on. And I found the evening news anchor who I know works out, who I know is going to love this product, and I figured out the email address. So it doesn't take a lot of time, and it's there.
And I know you say this all the time. If I can do it, you can, right, Christina?
Oh my gosh. Trust me, I am. And with technology, I am no rocket scientist at all. So I do say, if I can figure this stuff out, anybody can.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so when did you launch your book? I was just curious about that. How long ago was that?
The book came out June 1st of this year.
Wow, a newly minted publication. Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. Wonderful Denver prophet went ahead and bought a copy. I don't know if you saw it in the stream. And he created a Kindle discussion. So everybody, I will share those links as well. So
he's wonderful.
I'll jump in. Isn't that tremendous? What a generous person. I love when that happens. But really, when you think of the cost of the book, go get it. Start reading. Start figuring out your own ways to reach out to folks. Now, I know you have some great products that you offer on your website, prforanyone.com. Share those with us, Christina.
Yeah, so I have a course it's 15 modules, and don't panic because each one is really short and actionable, and you don't have to take all of them. I say, get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, and watch a 15-minute video, and it's me talking with slides, and then there's a worksheet, and There's actionable implementation right there. And that's, it's called PR 101, although we're about to do a big rebranding, but it's on the shop page, or you can do PR for anyone /PR-101. So that's on there. And then, we have all kinds of resources. Like if you're not good at the hooks, on the shop page, we have Art of the Hook, and I work with a colleague, and the two of us together, I have to say, when we come up with some really good hooks. So you can, we'll help you with 3 hooks.
I love that. So what you're saying basically is you're for hire.
I'm for hire, absolutely. And I do coaching. Sometimes people just need a tweak. I've been sending this to the media, but I haven't heard back. Well, let me look at it. Let me doctor it up for you and see if we can have more success.
Oh my gosh, you're just the entrepreneur's dream come true. Seriously, because a lot of times this will stop folks. And you and I both know as an entrepreneur, we're great at so many things, but not everything.
No.
And so when we have someone like you, a phenomenal resource to reach out to and to help us get this next level going, especially the great hook or what's newsworthy or finding that right journalist. I am just so thrilled. I'm just so thrilled you're here today, too, Christina. Thank you. You folks, I have all the links to everything that's Christina here in the event invite. It will also be in the video description as well as on my website, andelyons.com. Christina, we're going to be wrapping up soon. I just want to grab one more comment from the wonderful viewers who are tuning in today. You know how grateful I am when you show up and share your insights. Thank you, and your great energy. We feel it here in the room. Deborah Oakland says, the hook, stand out in the sea of voices. Great advice, Christina Daves. Also, people appreciate support and reciprocate in kind. Give, 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 and get is the way to build relationships and keep those relationships alive and well. Woohoo! Thank you for that. Okay, here we go. Thank you for that, Deborah. That's a wonderful comment, and it's true. We are all finding ways, trying to get our stories out. I think too, Christina, you're just a wonderful example of an entrepreneur who saw problems and solved them. Right up to, you had your great manufacturing business, phenomenal profit with that, but then this presented itself, and you're like, ooh.
Oh, yeah. I can't. My poor husband, who has been through this with me every single time, and he's like, you just keep coming up with these things, but when, opportunity knocked on this one, and the opportunity to help thousands of people was worth it to me to do this.
Clearly, you are serving the world with your gifts and your wonderful energy and your incredible enthusiasm. And really, you've taken away there's a bit of the austere club feeling among PR people, and you've completely removed that, and you've made it so accessible, and just, again, another strategy we entrepreneurs can add to our plate. Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
No, just like I said, if I can do it, if you had told me 3 years ago that a Fox News anchor would be at my house and hugging me and my husband and sending me a Christmas card, I would have said you had lost your mind. So it's all possible. Anything is possible. Just, baby steps, take a few journalists, get to know them, help them out, and you really will. You'll see success.
Oh, I love that advice. That's Andy-licious advice for sure. Now, there were some wonderful people who swung by to say that they were not able to make it live. And, of course, I just love waving from the room and blowing you all moi. So let me just go through my list, which is, I think Thea made it today. She's an Australian goddess, such a remarkable woman. You'd love her, Christina. And then Manolis, I know we're going to catch you on Reality Crowd TV. He has a wonderful crowdfunding TV show. Nazim, Curtis Ather, Tracy Baker, Elaine, Christopher Pearsley, you're here live. I'm so impressed. Gail Harris and Cheryl V. I think you're watching quietly in the background. I'm so grateful to the live viewers. And for those of you watching via the replay, thank you, because this advice that Christina brought us today is so key to your success. You have remarkable gifts. There's nothing that creates credibility and visibility than the media. I mean, as much as we like to play here on social media, there's right, Christina, there's just that real thumbs up that comes with media, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so this has been a very important show for all you entrepreneurial adventurers. Be sure to subscribe to both of our YouTube channels. Christina Daves is PR for Anyone on YouTube, and I'm Ande Advice. And also, if you get a chance and you haven't done so yet, hop on over to AndeLyons.com and download my free 7 essential strategies for early stage entrepreneurs. You're never going to want to say that fast. But it's really my best advice to help you grow your business. Next week, we have the sales goddess herself, Kendrick Shope, and she's going to be showing us how to take the ick out of selling. It's going to be a fun show. That's December 9 at 1 p.m. Eastern. Looking forward to seeing you all here again then. And in the meantime, thank you, entrepreneurs, for having the courage to pursue your dreams. I am in awe and wonder of you, and I'm wishing you an Ande-licious day. Mwah! And wave goodbye, Christina.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. See you live, folks, in the green room. Mwah!